So what the hell is an IEP anyway, which stands for Individual Education Plan, which is something that they do in public schools. So if you're in public school administration, prepare to get really pissed off. And if you are a public school teacher, you either know exactly what I'm talking about or you're brainwashed. So I'm going to tell you what it's for and then tell you what the problem is with an IEP. Now, I've mentioned this before, I've got a degree in education. I went to college. I took a course in individual educational plans, and it was a total waste of time. It's a nothing that couldn't have been wrapped up in like a 2-hour seminar, but it was an entire 3 credit hour course, which is an utter waste of time. Yeah, I went there. Utter waste of time. As are many college courses, just a complete waste of time, money, and effort. Essentially, because public school has been programmed to be as neutral as possible, okay? How that whole thing with we treat everybody with equality, everyone is treated the same. Well, there's a big hook in that fish. And the IEP is how they get around that hook. See, the IEP is, or individual educational plan, is a plan that is written up for a student that cannot be crammed into that average category. They don't fit with the equality standard. They're the square peg in the round hole, but they're going to jam that square peg in that round hole because they're getting paid to do it. So how does the IEP work? Let's say that you have a kid named Jimmy, and Jimmy broke his leg, and now he has to use the elevator to get to the second floor to be able to attend his classes. He's in a wheelchair. The IEP, they'll write up an IEP for him to give him permission to get on the elevator, because if they let him on the elevator under the normal standard, then they're giving a privilege to a student. And you can't give a privilege to a student if everybody is equal. Get it? See, now, Jimmy is going to need to go on the elevator anyway if he's going to get upstairs. He's in a freaking wheelchair. So basically, the IEP gives him permission to do what he would have had to have done already because the regular school rules don't allow for it. And it can get really stupid with these IEPs. I mean, some of them make sense because it's like, okay, you get a kid who has some kind of a diagnosis, whatever the problem may be, psychological problems, behavior problems, physical handicap. If your kid falls in that category, then they'll write up an IEP once again to give permission for the school to let the kid do what he's going to do anyways. Now, why would they want to do this? The reason they want to do this is, you guessed it, money. Schools get paid for each student that's in a seat. If there's a butt in that chair that day, the school's getting paid. And it's the same way as when I worked for JJA. We had the facility. If there was a head on the pillow by midnight, then you got paid, that facility got paid per occupied bed per day. That's how it was counted. If there's a butt in the seat in public school, the school's getting paid. How much do they make? That's kind of hard to nail down because there's no current statistics on what a student is worth in a public school setting. They say the average is around $11,000. I've heard when I was working with the public schools, I heard it was closer to around 14.5 to 15 on the average. But what they tell you is that it's around 11. And it could vary between 10 to, or rather, I should say 9 to about 20,000 per student, depending upon what state they're living in. That's an average. So let's pretend that it is $11,000. Now your kid just got an IEP. An IEP is an upgrade. So if that kid is attending school and he's got an IEP, he's not worth $11,000 anymore. He's worth 14, 15,000 a year to that school in state and federal funding. And God forbid that he's severely handicapped. There's something really wrong with him. He could nearly double his value for that school, which is why they insist on having the kids there. That's why they insist upon attendance, because it does count against them. There is a calculation for reducing averages for when a student is not in full attendance in the school. No butts in the seats, no money for the school. And the school doesn't spend nearly as much on kids as you think they do. And I'm going to show you a chart here in a minute. And this is bleeding off into another section because, I've got a lot of requests to talk about public schools because of my association to them and because I have a degree in education. I wasn't a teacher, but I have worked with public schools, and I've also worked with private schools and the Juvenile Justice Authority and school busing agencies like Laidlaw and Durham School Services in the past. I don't work for them anymore, but it's a huge cash cow. I went there again. It's all about the money. Anyway, as I was saying, I get a lot of requests to talk about public school. I can't fit it all in one video. There's no way. The video will be 2 hours long, if or more. So I'm breaking it up today. It's IEPs. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, let's say you have another kid, and his name is, I'm going to pick somebody here because I'm trying to remember his name because I have a really good example. I'm going to say Eric, right? Eric is a really advanced reader. He's a good reader, unlike most public school students who probably can't even read their own name. I have seen some really bad readers in the school system, and honor roll students at that. It's another story. Eric's an exceptional reader. He's in the 9th grade. It is absolutely Dullsville for him to be sitting in the English class, and he's just so far ahead of the other kids. But unlike in the old days where they would just let you go ahead and get a different curriculum, because that's how they used to do it. No, they got to write an IEP for Eric so that he can have permission to read above his grade. And of course, since Eric has an IEP, he's worth more money because the school's making what? A modification on Eric's behalf. That means that instead of being worth our imaginary 11,000 a year, which is probably more like 15, instead of making 11,000 a year for Eric, now they're making 13, 14,000 because they wrote an IEP to give him permission to do what? What he should be doing anyway. Thank you, public school. And the reason I picked this out is because I knew a kid who went through this. He was a 9th grade student. I think his name was Eric. I don't remember. I'm bad with names sometimes. And he got permission to go to the 11th grade English. So I asked him, how's that working out for you? And he says, total waste of time. I'm reading the same damn shit. That's his exact words. So the 11th grade class was reading the same level as the 9th grade class. So he went through all this rigmarole of getting an IEP to get advanced so the school can make more money. So that what can happen? So Eric can still be wasting his damn time. And that's how it works. And a lot of times with behavior modification, and this was in, Capital City School. And this was in Topeka. All of my experiences in Kansas, by the way, with this stuff. There's a school called Cap City or Capital City, and it is a disaster of a school. I know I shouldn't name the school probably, but there was 2 IEP students that stand out for me. One, this kid had and this is a high school, basically, high school. He had an IEP that allowed for him to hide under his desk when he got nervous. Okay? And where do you think he was all day long? He was under his damn desk. That's where he was all freaking day, under his desk. Because he knew that he could be there. It's not enough that he was going to do it anyways, because like I said, an IEP just gives you permission to do what you're already going to do. But he knew, now I have permission to be here. Screw you people. I'm going to sit under my freaking desk all day long. And that's what he did. He sat under there all day with a clipboard and his little work, and that's what he did. And there was another kid who had an IEP because he used excessive amounts of foul language, and the IEP allowed for him to cuss up to 24 times a day. And I guess the idea was that they would annually review this and reduce the number of times he's allowed to cuss. You want to guess how many times he cussed every day? If you guessed 24, you were right. You win the prize. Here, you can have a sip. Is there any in there? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, there you go. 24. Exactly. He was right on it. He kept count because he knew what he could get away with. So the IEPs are a total waste of time. It's bureaucracy. It's needless, useless paperwork designed to make it seem like they're doing something beneficial for the student and for them to make more money for the school. And the schools make a ton of money. You have no idea. And very little of it is spent on the students. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump the gun here because I'm not ready to talk about this yet, but I'm going to show you this image. See this chart? And this comes from the government. And this is just different states. It's out of order because it's in order of the amount of money they spend, the amount of money that the government gives each school. So the bar goes from largest amount to smallest amount moving down. You can't see the whole thing here. Now, if you look in the middle, all right, the light gray in the center, the third one in from the left, where it says instructional staff support. I'm sorry, no, pupil support. Pupil support. I'm reading the wrong one. Third one in, pupil support. See that gray spot? That's the amount that's actually spent on your student. Look at what the other bars represent. School administration, general administration, staff support, instruction employee salaries. How much of the money, the billions that gets poured into the public school money pit, who is one of the largest, I know people cry about national defense, but public school is one of the largest of these government cash cows. It really is. And like I said, I'll get into that more later on. That little gray spot is what's actually going into your student. The rest of it is all spent on employees and administration. So where's your money really going? I mean, it's pretty obvious because public school kids get a crap education anyway. Now back to the college aspect of this, because I skipped over something that I had thought of I wanted to say. And it was when I went to the first day of this college course, the first thing the professor said was she said, listen, this is the course that is gonna piss you off because it's really not necessary and because it's really just another way the public school filters through a lot of red tape. And she was absolutely right because that's what it is. It's a total waste of your time. It's a total waste of time. If the student needs something, you should just provide it. You don't need a booklet of paperwork to explain what, where, when, and how, if for no other reason than to just get paid. And that's the bottom line. The public schools make a fortune and or siphon off a fortune, I should say. They siphon off tons and tons of money from your tax dollars, from the federal government, from the state government, from donations, from all over the place. And they have really piss poor results with the students. And like I said, I'll get back into more of this later on. Today, I just wanted to focus on an IEP and basically what it is and what it really is. But I'll talk about more public school related issues in the future. And as I pointed out before, stay tuned, more to come. Also, I want to remind people though, please like, share, and subscribe, particularly share, because when I talk about subjects like this, YouTube has a habit of cutting off the monetization to the video as being inappropriate for their advertisers. And it's not even about the money. It's about the fact that without the monetization, you drop all the way to the bottom of the list. So when people are looking for videos, they're not going to see you. So I need the shares when you get the opportunity. Please, if you think that the discussion is important, please do remember to share. I do appreciate it. A student that cannot be crammed into that average category. They don't fit with the equality standard. They're the square peg in the round hole, but they're going to jam that square peg in that round hole because they're getting paid to do it. So how does the IEP work? Let's say that you have a kid named Jimmy, and Jimmy broke his leg, and now he has just a complete waste of time, money, and effort. Essentially, because public school has been programmed to be as neutral as possible, okay? How that whole thing with we treat everybody with equality, everyone is treated the same. Well, there's a big hook in that fish. And the IEP is how they get around that hook. See, the IEP is, or individual educational plan, is a plan that is written up for to use the elevator to get to the second floor to be able to attend his classes. He's in a wheelchair. The IEP, they'll write up an IEP for him to give him permission to get on the elevator. Because if they let him on the elevator under the normal standard, then they're giving a privilege to a student. And you can't give a privilege to a student if everybody is equal. Get it? See, now, Jimmy is going to need to go on the elevator anyways before I've got a degree in education. I went to college. I took a course in individual educational plans, and it was a total waste of time. It's a nothing that couldn't have been wrapped up in like a 2-hour seminar, but it was an entire 3-credit-hour course, which is an utter waste of time. Yeah, I went there. Utter waste of time. As are many college courses. So what the hell is an IEP anyway, which stands for Individual Education Plan, which is something that they do in public schools. So if you're in public school administration, prepare to get really pissed off. And if you are a public school teacher, you either know exactly what I'm talking about or you're brainwashed. So I'm going to tell you what it's for and then tell you what the problem is with an IEP. Now, I've mentioned